Now, I haven't actually read an article and reacted to it here on YouTube. Now, I know that's popular. I might do it from time to time, but I haven't done it yet. But here is an article which I read, which I did find really interesting, and therefore I wanted to share my perspective on it. New junior developers can't actually code. Now, that is an article, which I, of course, link below the video. Obviously, definitely go there, read it yourself. By the way, the author has many other pretty interesting articles too. I had a look at some of them, so definitely check that out. But in this article, the author is essentially arguing that, well, as the title suggests, new developers don't actually know how to write code. And obviously, they don't know how to write code because they're using AI to generate code. And, well, let's dive in. Something's been hugging me about how new devs and I need to talk about it. Okay, so about how new devs write code, I guess. We're at this weird inflection point in software development. Every junior dev I talk to has Copilot or Claude or GPT running 24/7. They're shipping code faster than ever. True. Obviously, you can be pretty productive when using AI. You can quickly generate code, especially, of course, also boilerplate code, CRUD applications, building blocks. So you can be really productive. But when I dig deeper into their understanding of what they're shipping, that's where things get concerning. Now, I will say I have already read the entire article, but leaving out what we'll get to later in the article, this, of course, is a very valid concern here, let's say. Because obviously, and I have said this many times before in other videos as well, AI is a super important tool. Obviously, it's here to stay, and anyone who's saying that it won't change a lot, that it will be gone in a couple of years, I guess not too many people are still saying that, but anyone who is, not sure if that will be the case. But of course, at the same time, like all tools, it also adds or introduces certain dangers, potential problems. I mean, if you're using AI as a developer, as you should, you can be more productive, but you also might forget how to write code. You might not really understand the code you're producing. You might not really understand the solution you're implementing. And this sometimes might not be a problem. You could also argue, what's the problem? If I build an application with AI and it works, I don't care if I understand the code. And that, of course, would be a valid point of view, especially if you're bootstrapping a startup, building a prototype, and so on. But of course, in the long run, you might face problems if you don't understand your code. It might be hard to evolve or maintain the code, fix potential problems in the code if you only rely on AI for that. Now, obviously, of course, if we'll enter a future where AI does everything, where we basically don't touch code at all anymore, where we maybe don't even need programs anymore because we just have one super AI program which can do anything for us if we just ask it to, in that future, of course, this all might not matter. I'm just not convinced if that future is super close and will ever be a reality. But if you believe in that, obviously, well, then you might not care too much about code quality and understanding code. But in all other realities, you'll definitely benefit from having a deeper understanding. And I'll publish a separate video about that and the skill gap that is opening up due to AI a little bit later this week. But back to this article. So this is a valid concern. Sure, the code works, but ask why it works that way instead of another way, crickets. Ask about edge cases, blank stares. That's, by the way, also important. Just because you produce code with an AI, just because you got back some code by an AI and the code does what you want it to do, that of course does not mean that it will do all the things that could be done with that code correctly. So for example, if you're building an authentication system and you're testing whether sign up and sign in and log out works correctly, that all working the way you want it to work does not guarantee that it's secure, that user data might not be leaked somewhere, that passwords may maybe not be stored correctly, that maybe if a user logs in from a second machine, that works as intended. There are many potential problems, and to some degree also edge cases, which you might not consider because you might not even know about them. If you don't know a lot about writing code, building applications, no matter if it's web applications or anything else, then you might just not think about problems like this, and the AI might also not think about it because you didn't ask it to, because it might not generate code that covers all edge cases. So that is a valid problem you could run into. The foundational knowledge that used to come from struggling through problems is just missing. Yeah, of course, because if you basically get all your code from an AI, or if you can immediately ask an AI whenever you're facing some problem, you don't really have to think about the problem a lot and you don't have to struggle through it and find solutions. That is a fair point. We're trading deep understanding for quick fixes, and while it feels great in the moment, we're going to pay for this later. So that's exactly the point I made a little bit earlier. And obviously, sometimes you need a quick fix. Sometimes you just need a solution now. You don't have the time to think it through and come up with the best possible solution that covers all edge cases. Definitely, such situations exist. But sometimes, often, I guess, you do have the time. And even if you need a quick fix, maybe coming back to it later and thinking through it might be beneficial. So yeah, just having quick fixes as the only thing that can lead to problems. Back when we had to actually think. I recently realized that there's a whole generation of new programmers who don't even know what Stack Overflow is. Back when Claude was not a chatbot, but the man who invented the field of information entropy, there was a different way to debug programming problems. First, search on Google, then hope some desperate soul had posed a similar question as you had. If they did, you'd find a detailed, thoughtful, and often patronizing answer from a wise graybird on this site called Stack Overflow. True. So that is, well, probably still how most people, I would guess, learned to code or evolved as developers. I definitely have. And obviously, we've probably all been there where you search for some error message or search for the solution to some problem you're facing, and you find like a 10-year-old Stack Overflow thread where the first reply is some person telling the original poster to look at that other question because this question is a duplicate. And gosh, we've all been there. But of course, Stack Overflow was very useful also because there you did not just get a solution for your problem. Well, of course, sometimes you did not get one at all. Sometimes you just were borderline insulted, but often you did get a solution, but you did not just get that, but instead you often got explanations, alternatives, and, very important, discussions, like multiple replies where people started discussing. And it is always a good idea, and it has always been a good idea, to not just pick like the first solution you get, but have a look at alternatives, understand the reasoning for the solution, understand the discussion that's going on and what people are thinking about that. So definitely a huge advantage of using Stack Overflow, but of course, slower than using an AI. So here's one of the questions I posed 12 years ago. See the top answer by Nathan Wall, who has earned a whopping 10,000 points and is apparently a CTO since 2015. So yeah, here the author of this article is essentially like asking or posting a screenshot of a question he asked on Stack Overflow about, well, what the difference is between using parse float to convert a string to a number or using plus in front of that string or using the number function built into JavaScript. And then here we see the reply, which gives a detailed explanation of parse float, parse int, and in which cases they behave equally to using the number function or adding a plus in front of the string you want to convert, and in which cases you might face problems or differences. So that is what I meant. We had like alternatives. We had more than just a quick and easy answer. And you can get that from an AI too, of course, if you ask for it, if you ask follow-up questions, or if you ask for alternatives in a discussion, you can get that. And then you actually are using an AI in a, I would say, better way than just grabbing that quick solution. But if you're just asking for one solution, you might not get this discussion. Or even if you get like details, you might just skip over them and just grab that solution and not care about what else you got back from the AI. So that is exactly the potential problem one could be facing. Can you imagine that some dude just wrote an answer with this level of detail, raw, without an AI, and for free? Yeah, that's essentially what Stack Overflow was, besides all the negative things you could say about it, or despite all the negative things, I should say. My original question was thoroughly answered, of course, but it did stop there. I learned so many new facts. Some of them I didn't even know existed. That's also important, by the way. So often, when growing as a developer, when learning new things or to learn new things, you do that by picking up random facts here and there, reading a response to a totally different problem that might include some information you didn't have before. That is such a crucial process of learning. Because, of course, you can ask for a solution and get one, but in order to do that, you need to know the problem first in order to ask for a solution to the problem. Now, that's, of course, one way of learning, but an equally important way of learning, I would argue, is to pick up information you didn't even know was a problem or you didn't even know solved a certain problem. And that is what you could get by diving into Stack Overflow, also, of course, Reddit in general, social media, and stuff on the internet, also blog articles, still a very valuable source to learn things. You could pick up so much interesting extra information there, which you might not even need for the concrete application you're currently working on or the problem you're facing, but which nonetheless is super helpful. And again, you can get that from an AI too, but since you're always asking for something there, you need to read the details it may give you, and you need to ask for extra information or discussions because you otherwise might not get that. This was the best case scenario if you had a question. If you stumbled upon a particularly difficult problem and didn't find someone who had answered your question already, then tough luck. And yeah, I've been there too. We probably all have been. You face a problem, you Google for it, you find a Stack Overflow thread that has exactly the same problem, and then, unfortunately, no reply or no helpful reply. Yeah, definitely. Has happened. Well, at least you then knew that you were not alone. Junior devs these days have it easy. They just go to chat.com, which forwards to ChatGPT, and copy paste whatever errors they see. Even lazier ones don't do the 30-second effort of toggling to a browser window. They just use a tool that does it all in one place, and that would lead us to Cursor. So yeah, what we essentially already said. It's convenient and quick. But there's still one reason that Stack Overflow was superior. Reading discussions by experienced developers about your topic is the best way to learn. Here's a graph to explain what I mean. And that's exactly what I also said before. Getting an answer is great, getting extra information and the discussion is better, and also allows you to qualify the answer. Maybe that's also something that happens. Maybe you're getting a solution to a problem you have, but it's not the best solution for the specific problem you're having. But through a discussion, you can determine that even though the answer may in general be a good solution to a given problem, it may not be the best solution for your problem. So it's all these nuances, all these little things that really make a difference. AI gives you an answer, but the knowledge you gain is shallow. With Stack Overflow, you had to read multiple expert discussions to get the full picture. Yes, it was slower, but you came out understanding not just what worked, but why it worked. Very important. Think about every great developer you know. Did they get good by copying solutions? No, they got there by understanding systems deeply and understanding other developers' thought processes. That's exactly what we're losing. By the way, also, very important point here. We all probably have copy and pasted solutions from Stack Overflow or somewhere else. I definitely did, and I still do. Of course, the same also if I get solutions from AI tools. We always did that. And indeed, therefore, I still often have situations where I might need a certain piece of code, which I have, in theory, written quite frequently in the past. But in most cases, I might have just copied it because I always faced that same problem, searched for it, found the solution, copy and pasted it, understood the code. But if you don't write it, you don't really remember it that well. And if you don't write it frequently, you remember it even less. But you still understood the solution. So in programming, there are definitely situations, quite a lot, I would say, where you might not be able to write the code perfectly without looking it up, but you perfectly well understand what code you need in general, which kind of code you need, if you can put it like this. You understand the problem and what the best solution here is because you've been through it often enough. Yet now you just need the exact code. Might sound a bit abstract, but these situations definitely exist, at least for me. But of course, the important thing here is that you know what code you're generally looking for. You just don't want to like spend 2 or 3 minutes like writing it out on your own, figuring out what the correct syntax or functions or APIs are, and you just therefore Google it, grab it, use it, but you know exactly which APIs, for example, in general you want to use. Situations like this are, I would argue, at least not uncommon. And again, also, you can solve these situations, you can develop that extra knowledge in the AI world as well. You just need to make a habit out of really challenging the solutions you get, understanding the solutions you get, and add that extra context, so to say. I'm not trying to be that guy who complains about kids these days. I use AI tools daily. I'm literally building one. Yeah, so this guy, I think, is building, looks like a cursor alternative or maybe an extension. It's an AI coding assistant. So yeah, you can, I guess, apply for the beta to give it a try. But we need to be honest about what we're trading away for this convenience. So what can we do? I've been experimenting with ways to fix this, but because let's face it, AI isn't going anywhere. Of course it's not. Here's what's actually working. First, use AI with a learning mindset. When it gives you an answer, interrogate it. Ask it why. Sure, it takes longer, but that's literally the point. So yeah, that's of course also what I've said before. Turn the AI into your Stack Overflow. Get discussions and alternatives and thoughts about it. Get explanations out of it. Understand the solutions it gives you and read those discussions and explanations, of course. Next, find your tribe. Reddit, Discord, Mastodon, wherever the smart people hang out, that's where you'll find the real discussions happening, the ones that make you go, huh, I never thought about it that way. So yeah, of course, interacting with people, joining discussions can be helpful. Now, I would say probably less important, or maybe not less important, but definitely harder to do, not always available. So I would definitely focus on the first point, but yeah, definitely a valid point too. Do code reviews differently. Instead of just checking if the code works, start a conversation with your team. What approaches did they consider? Why did they pick this one? Make understanding the process as important as the end result. Now, I would argue that good code reviews do not just check whether the code works. So that should already be a thing, even prior to AI being an important thing, so prior to large language models. Good code reviews should not just check whether the code works. Absolutely not. But of course, one interesting thing I want to add here, if you're working on your own as a solo developer, on your own side project, main project, your own startup, what you definitely also should consider is analyzing your code with help of AI, ask AI about your code, get feedback from AI about your code, and also, on the other hand, when you get feedback or when you get code by an AI, challenge it yourself. Think about it, and then ask AI about your concerns, your potential improvements you maybe came up with, potential problems you see in the solution, in the code provided by the AI. So do a code review with the AI, either with the AI being the reviewer or with you being the reviewer, reviewing the AI generated code or solution. And you can even like blend these roles and go back and forth. So definitely something I would recommend. Build things from scratch sometimes. Yes, AI can generate that authentication system for you, but try building one yourself first. You'll write worse code, but you'll understand every line of it. That knowledge compounds. And that's also, of course, an important thing, which I have also mentioned before in other videos, also in my live streams, of course. You should consider turning off GitHub Copilot from time to time, or not use Cursor or Windsurf or whatever you're doing. You should try going back to the good old days of writing code without AI from time to time, simply to avoid that problem which I described earlier, which you can also have without AI, where you just copy and paste code and you don't even understand it. You can do all that, but going back, writing code just with your knowledge, just with the help of Google maybe and Stack Overflow, like in the good old days, that can be very important to hone your skills and become better as a developer in an age, in an era where we have all these AI tools. Because, as I'll also argue in an upcoming video, which I'll share in a few days, there is a skill gap. And that skill gap, in my opinion, is getting bigger. It's widening. So there are people who only know how to use AI, or who might not be that knowledgeable, and they can get things done with AI. But then there also are experienced people. And if those experienced people stay experienced, become better, and also use AI, I believe they're always going to be way ahead of those other people on the wrong side of the skill gap. So in order to stay on the right side, in order to keep on evolving, this is definitely something I would recommend that you do from time to time. Turn off AI from time to time. And again, of course, if you believe that AI will replace everything and everyone anyways, that we don't need to write any code, no matter if it's AI generated or if it's us writing it in a few years, then this all might not matter to you. But I'm very confident this is not the future we'll see in the near term, at least in the near future, and also not in the mid-term. Obviously, no one can look into the future, but this is not something I see happening. But I do see AI becoming ever more capable, ever more helpful, being able to generate vast amount of code. But companies pushing AI-generated code into production without any human input or reviewers or improvement, that's not a scenario I see in the near term. But of course, you may disagree also with this article as a whole. Definitely let me know your feedback in the comments. Definitely let me know what you think about this whole topic, about this article. And yeah, see you in future videos. Bye.